Welcome to this episode of Inside the Gym podcast. Today, I'm excited about this episode. We are bringing back David Scott from Hybrid Strength, and we're bringing back Anthony from Grind Gyms in Baltimore. You've heard me talk about both of these gyms. You've seen both of these gym owners on other podcasts with me. And today, if you've seen some of the podcasts where I've interviewed gym owners, at the last question I always ask in that podcast is, do you have any recommendations for anyone who's owning a gym or just started a gym or wants to start a gym? And so many times that recommendation has been, don't give up your day job until you've had the gym for several years, because if you start relying on the income of the gym for your survival, then it's going to really delay what you can do with the gym. So these two gentlemen have been able to take that philosophy to such a good degree and build their gyms to such a point that now they've been able to take a step back from their day jobs, and now they're being able to get into the gym full time. So we wanted to do this podcast episode to let you guys know what the advantages were, really get into that question so that they could talk about what their advantages were when they were working full time and what they were able to do with the gym because they were working full time. And now, what are their advantages now that they've gotten their gyms to a point where they can take a step back and they don't have a day job. So if you wouldn't mind, David, just to start off, when you were working full time, and you were building your gym, not having to worry about the gym for an income, what sort of advantages did that give you?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's just the revenue that you have allows you to reinvest in the gym, which I feel is very important when you're starting out, especially in small non-corporate gyms like ours, where you don't have millions of dollars from corporate to do marketing, to do all the equipment, that you're going to have. So you're literally buying piece by piece, month after month, building your gym one brick at a time. And if you were basically living off the gym funds to support your home life, that's just I feel like that's gonna put you out of business, especially in today's market. Or it's gonna make things so much longer for you to get to the point where your gym is successful. It's just a detriment. So keep your day job.
And just for anybody who hasn't seen the podcast I did with either one of these gentlemen, David was able to buy a gym from someone else that was going out of business. And Anthony and your partner, you guys started your gym from scratch, right?
We did. They were it was formerly a Gold's Gym 15 plus years before we took it over. And then it was collecting dust. A couple of personal trainers were in there doing some small group stuff. But it was nothing for years before we took it over. And then we had to do a full on, renovations of getting a little up to date. And yeah, David, what do you do before the gym, before when you were transitioning over?
So my background's all in healthcare.
Okay.
I'm a trauma ICU nurse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so actually when we took over the business from the old gym that I was a member of,
you remember?
I was actually the manager of our trauma ICU here in Dayton, Ohio. And, I had 43 employees under me that I was in charge of, multi-million-dollar payrolls and budgets every month, So it was a big transition to go from management to not having any true business background and, with your own business.
Right.
Now, the benefit was that it was a business that was established. So there was a membership base there, but there wasn't much money coming in. There was about $3,000 a month is about what the memberships were bringing in. So not a whole lot. The benefit was that rent was super, super low.
Oh, really?
The crappy place that we were at. So.
Yeah. Now, Anthony, you had a business before.
Yep.
Had a separate business, right? And you were doing that full time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and your partner started the gym, for you, what kind of advantage was it having another business that you were running already?
So the first business we started in college, and I've been trying to avoid a job since with it, but it's been tough. And we started juice bars in gyms, local wise. And we did that from our senior year of college for 10 years before we even touched the first gym. And that business was kind of like a learning curve. I mean, it wasn't like a cash cow by any means. We had to go month to month, and literally we overexpanded at one point, and we really had to like budget correctly. Some months the money were there, some months it wasn't. And when COVID happened, that obviously shut everything down. It gave us kind of time to recalibrate everything. We found the first gym, our Inner Harbor location, right before COVID. So we took it over, a year before that. And the gym was definitely a slow burn of trying to figure out our identity, our brand, who our members are, what kind of community we'd be. And when COVID happened, it kind of gave us time to like take a step back, look at the juice bars, which has been our livelihood of trying to, budget and pay for living basically. And then COVID gave us the chance to really decide if should we pivot and just kind of go all into the gym. And that's kind of what we did during that downtime. And then once COVID, the restrictions came out and we were able to reopen again, we decided to not open the juice bars. And we had up to 5 or 6 at one point from Baltimore and outside the counties in Maryland. And then we ended up before COVID with about 3 of our highest earning juice bars. And we just made the call to let those shut down and go all in on the grind. And thankfully that paid off, but it was definitely a big pivot point.
Yeah. So then when you guys were both running your gym and your business at the same time, or Dave, you were working as a nurse and Anthony, you were running the juice bars and trying to run the gym, were there a lot of things that you had to rely on other people to do, or were there things that you weren't able to get done because you were being pulled in so many different directions, or were you basically just pulling 2 full-time jobs? You want to start with that one, Dave?
Yeah, so I was basically pulling 2 full-time jobs. My wife at the time was home with the kids, and I missed a lot of their activities, junior high through high school, just growing the gym. Early on, we just didn't have the funds to be able to afford employees. It was just me by myself. And so it was either relying on family to help with cleaning, but you're wearing all the hats. You're not only the president of the company, but you're cleaning the toilets, taking out the trash, updating the equipment, fixing the equipment, doing the marketing, everything. So, yeah, it's 2 full-time jobs basically. If I wasn't at the hospital 40 hours a week, I was working on the gym the other. And so there was a lot of sketchy times early on because the gym would go, say I worked 3 12s in a row. I didn't go to the gym for 3 or 4 days. And you just hope for the best when you got back in there. So until I could afford a security system and locks on the doors and key fobs and stuff like that, it was basically a free for all for probably the first 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was it with you guys, Anthony? So, I mean, obviously you have a business partner, and you guys were running both businesses, but how was it like trying to handle both businesses? Were there things that you
literally
guys
the same boat? Exactly what David said is everything from scrubbing toilets to when you're taking calls to someone calls HR and you're like, that's me too. So we're literally doing everything. And it was definitely a learning experience especially when you couldn't afford to hire anybody. And I think the biggest thing now with a good gyms is you got to have good people, good trainers and a good team in your corner that really believes in what you guys are doing. But in the beginning, it's very tough for 1 to find those people, 2 to afford them, and then 3 is just to have someone to actually believe in the brand and the vision if there's nothing there yet. And so in the very beginning, exactly the same thing. And I mean, even half the time now, it's so tough. I don't know about you, Dave. It's even tough to get a workout in sometimes because I'm like, oh, I got to take the trash out. I got to do this still. You see things, and it's just, a disconnect if you want to people think when you go to gym, it's like, oh, nice, I can work out whenever and do this. But most of the time you're in there doing something else. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you're always fixing something, or you see
Yep.
something that your employees don't see, whether it's a cable's frayed that they
Yeah.
overlooked, or there's a bolt missing on a machine. You're like, where the hell does bolt come from? Like,
Yeah.
why is it here? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
you're like, well, I guess then you're searching, and then 20 minutes go by, and you're like, well, there goes
Exactly.
my workout.
Like, I guess I got to warm up again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how long for each of you, how long were you running the gym and your other business before you were like, okay, like I think we can go full time with the gym? For you, Anthony, how long and just for anybody who knows, your partner's name is Nick, right?
Nick. Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we mention Nick, that's Anthony's business partner.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
he's not a silent partner. Anthony's the GymInformer face of grind.
Yeah. That's right. He's more of the back end, and yeah, I would say it's about 2 years before we made the transition. And I mean, it was 2 years too of finding our way. Like, we weren't profitable, and again, trying to find our identity of what we were going to be about, who we're going to attract, what kind of members, what kind of community. And once we started owning in on that more and honing in, then we really saw things like exponentially grow, which is cool.
Nice. And then you had the gym for a while, right, Dave?
Yeah, I made my first attempt at jumping from full time to just doing the gym back in the end of 2016 through the middle of 2017. And, while you're still trying to grow, the gym had only been around for about 3.5 years. I had 2 employees by that time, and just trying to live off the gym funds. I went through my savings quite fast, and so I had to go back to work. It just, I fell on my face. It just wasn't the right time yet, and I was trying to jump the gun because I was trying to chase all the shiny stuff that I saw all these guys that I was following on Instagram, and I was hiring all these business-minded coaches that you see, these gurus, and paying them a bunch of money, and they're like, we can improve your sales and blah blah blah, and it was just, long story short, it just fell on my face. And so I went back, and now as of June of last year, 2024, I work maybe 1 or 2 days, mostly 1 day a month at the hospital.
Damn.
And that's more so to keep
just to keep your skill set up. And you have to have, honestly, to maintain your licensure, because I've been doing this almost 21 years. To maintain your licensure and your certifications, you've got to have so many hours of expertise and clinical knowledge, and you also have to have continuing credit. So being able to still be in the hospital and get your continuing credit hours through the hospital helps save me money, and then it keeps I guess it always keeps the door open there. If anything ever happened, I can always go back. It's like a safety net, I should say. I haven't burned the ships down yet, but it's getting there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then for transition, like, once you guys, like, how did you know, like, Anthony, you talked about COVID and like that was the turning point, but like, was there something that told you guys like, okay, like, we're seeing this and we know that like we can give up the juice bars and we can make this work?
Yeah, I think it's really like the ROI on like your time and energy. And we definitely could have kept both to this day and still been doing both. But then it really was like, how much time and energy, like what's the return on that with the juice bars compared to if we did that with the gym? And the writing was on the wall in terms of just, we got to push our eggs in this basket and go on with this. And the juice bars, like I said, were, they were profitable, but not the amount of time and expenses and energy and overhead, and just a completely different business model from a subscription, gym model to literally selling shakes one by one, paying college and high school kids. It's a completely different model. And we finally realized that if we take our time and energy and put it into the gym, we'll see better results with them. And it's worked, thankfully.
Yeah.
So Dave, like, for you, when you tried it the first time, and then now that you've like successfully moved away from your full-time job and you're full-time in the gym, were there signs that you saw the second time that you didn't see the first time, and were there things the first time that you misinterpreted? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I thought the gym the first time was at a point that I could afford to do it. I miscalculated significantly on what it would take to continue to build the gym, I should say. If I didn't want to build the gym to what you've seen it is today, and I just wanted to stay in the original location, 7,000 square feet, super small, super low rent, not in the best part of town, but I probably could have made it happen, and it would just always been this small town gym that is a good story, and I would have been comfortable with 200, 300 members and never have gotten past that. But I've never seen the gym as being small town. I've always wanted to be nationally known and a bigger gym. And so being able to afford buying equipment, and as you know, everything kept getting more expensive trying to find equipment. That was what I miscalculated on, was the rarity of pieces to find for my gym, and then the cost. And then it just exponentially went up with COVID. But it's gotten great now, because now it's to the point where, I've got 6 employees. I've got a manager that's full-time here. I'm here full-time. We can offer medical and dental insurance. So, to be able to come this far now and be able to offer that stuff for people, it's taken 10 years. Some gyms, they can do it in 4 years, 5 years. But my business mentors have always said this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. So I've kind of taken that mentality that, like, I'll get there eventually. I'm in this for the long haul. I want to be around 40, 50 years from now and still have the gym. So, I hope that answered your question.
Oh, and no, it did. And for anybody who hasn't been to hybrid, like, it took Dave 10 years to get hybrid to where it is, but it's a bucket list gym now. Like, don't mistake that Dave didn't take 10 years to build an average gym. He took 10 years to build what is now a bucket list gym.
Yeah.
So
what's crazy, Dave, is what you said earlier is talking about following like gyms on social media, which I've fallen in the trap of doing.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy because you obviously see like the finished product of like the glitz, glam, sparkle, everything. And then if you actually, which I've tried to do, is research the backstory of some of these gyms that you follow nationwide, of course. And it's funny because you might see a 30,000 square feet mecca of a place.
Yeah.
But it's 10, 12, 15 years later, starting from 4,000, 3,000 square foot warehouse and just slowly building over time to that point.
Yeah.
And
no, it's great. I also appreciate the gyms and the guys that are better in business than I am, that went all in and can get it done in 3 or 4 years and have opened up multiple locations now. I'm like, hey, more power to you. And I'm glad that you guys could do that. I just didn't have that benefit. I had mouths to feed. I had kids at home. I had a wife at home, so during that time that I needed, to work full time, but these younger guys that are coming up in their 20s now, that are ahead of the game, single, and they're just grinding. I'm like, damn, I'm 47. Like, I can just imagine what they're going to have 20 years from now when their gym's 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. So
we started at 30 and I feel we're behind the ball on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're also seeing, well, at least from what I've been seeing, like that you guys both like Anthony, you kind of learned School of Hard Knocks on the juice bar.
Yep.
And Dave, you learned School of Hard Knocks on the smaller gym before you got into the bigger gym. Like, that's more of what I'm seeing across the country than people who are business savvy saying, I'm going to get into the gym market. Like, most of the gyms that I go into are people who are learning like how to run a gym and how to run a business at the same time.
Yeah.
So, it's not, we're not flush in this industry with business savvy people who want to be gym owners.
Right.
Like, most business savvy people, look at the fact that most gyms go out of business and go,
Mhm.
yeah, no, that's not for me.
If it wasn't
Yeah.
for the 10 years of the previous business, there's no way we'd be able to do it now. We've learned so many stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to do it long-term, long ways. Like there's no way around it unless you are like the 1%er of getting lucky with something.
Yeah.
It is, 10 years of mistakes that lead up to the being able to get lucky when opportunity comes of different things.
Mhm. So now that you guys are full-time and you're be able to focus on the gym, what sort of things are you guys like able to do now that you feel like maybe you couldn't do before, or that is that too big of a question? I know that's a pretty big open-ended question.
I know I'll say is it's the being able to delegate the things that you don't have to be into every single case by case study of everything. Be able to delegate with that people you trust. And it takes time for us of going through and find the right people that believe in us and we believe in them with. And slowly, I always say is like still be micro with members, but also think of like the macro vision of the gym of what's next, what the plan is, how we want to grow, how we want to market ourselves. And there's a fine balance I always find of like still doing the day-to-day stuff, but then not getting tied down to that as much so you can concentrate on the bigger picture too. So it's like the seesaw.
Yeah, I can imagine if you guys hadn't given up the juice bars, you wouldn't have the second gym.
Most likely not. Yeah, it's true.
Because I'm assuming that freed up a lot of time for you guys to research the second gym and do all of that.
There was times when it was talks about like when we had multiple locations of this is before there was a cashless system, right? Where it's going down and dropping off roll nickels and picking up produce and just meaningless tasks of stuff that waste time and energy that we'd be putting in this.
And for anybody who doesn't know, they've Anthony and Nick have had the second gym for a year and a half, 2 years.
Yep, just about a little under a year and a half. Yep.
Yeah,
very cool.
And it's a pretty cool old school bodybuilding gym as well. So
nice.
So for you, Dave, like I know you mentioned like now that the gym's gotten so successful, you're able to provide healthcare and things like that. But what sort of benefit from your end have you been able to like see from going full time in the gym?
My time, honestly, it's most days I can write my own schedule to how I want it to be. In healthcare, you get burnt out pretty quickly. Nowadays, it's just not nursing, especially isn't what it was 20 years ago when I started. And there's a lot of burnout, especially post-COVID. And it's nice to not have to wake up to an alarm clock. Like I don't have to be at the gym at 8 a.m. if I don't want to. I enjoy my mornings now. I usually get up between 4 and 5. I just kind of chill, enjoy my mornings till about 8, and then I start getting ready. And I'm usually by the gym by 9:30 or 10, and I'm usually here till about 5. Some days I'll stay later, but it's been able to afford me, the freedom to have my own time to do what I like. Like yesterday, spent the entire day with my daughter. Went to a museum. It was nice. And that's one thing in business that I really like, especially owning your own business, is that if you want to, you don't have to keep grinding every single day. You can take that time for yourself and spend it, because now I'm trying to catch up with all those times that I missed all their activities. My kids are in their 20s now. And so I'm trying to catch up on that time that I missed early on where it was just me, and I missed all their rehearsals and performances and, financially, it's nice to be able to afford stuff for them to help them out, in their 20s, because it's hard for them. Most 20-year-olds now are struggling, with the economy and everything. So it's nice to be able to afford stuff for them. And, my son works for me here. So he's kind of like, I'm not only, helping him out, but, he's helping me out by, kind of helping with the family business. So
that's cool.
And then you were able to take that vacation that I was jealous of, seeing all those photos in Hawaii.
Yeah. I mean, you going to Hawaii. I mean, I've been to Hawaii now, 3 times in the last, 15 months. So we'll go for 10 days at a time, 10, 12 days at a time. And It's nice to be able to do that stuff, you know.
When you were doing both, were you ever able to take a vacation?
Once a year. Now I try to go 3 times a year, you know. It still allows me to afford everything at the gym. It allows me to do all the investments that I want to continue to grow. But again, I've always kind of looked at this as, again, a marathon. This is going to be my retirement. This is going to be, I want this to be able to afford me freedom, and freedom in my time is what my business is really, for. So.
Mm-hmm. So for you, Anthony, like, we're from a time standpoint, Dave was talking a lot about time and the time that it gave him back. It seems, and it's interesting that like being full time in your gym actually gives you more time. Have you guys seen? Have you and Nick seen the same thing?
Yeah, it's like exactly what Dave was saying. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Is it's all the sacrifice and stuff you put in, like building the gym. It's the typical cliche, corny statement of like no one sees the like. I remember being like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., like demoing stuff and like on a Friday night. And I remember spending New Year's Eve in the gym, like taking toilets out and all this crazy stuff, and all those hours and years ramp up time to prep for that and to hopefully have the chance to have the freedom in the future to do those things.
Yep.
And it's like what's the cliche saying of like you work 80 hours for yourself, so you don't have to work 40 for someone else. And it's the same thing as you do that so you can take the vacations and the time when you can, because you built something and you put the time and the hours in for that.
Yep.
Yeah. So then now that you guys are full time, I know Dave, you mentioned you have a manager. Anthony, you guys have a manager at each location, right?
Yep. And I have one that oversees both, general manager. Yeah.
Okay. And then since you both have managers, like what sort of role do you take at the gym when you are there?
You go first.
Yeah, I was gonna say it varies day to day. I mean, it's like if, for instance, today was the most random things is we're putting a barber shop in the gym, so it's picking out blinds for the windows and doing a little marketing for that. What kind of cross promotion are we going to do with the barber?
Is that the new one or?
The new one, yep, yeah. And then other days would be something completely different. And that's just when I'm actually physically in the space. On the outside, there's always the back end stuff of everything.
Yeah, for me, I like to joke that I'm the head bill payer. When people ask like, "Oh, are you the owner?" I'm like, "Yeah, I pay the bills." It's usually paying bills. It's even though I've got a manager here, and she does quite a bit of stuff. I still like to be the main purchaser of things, and so she'll give me reports and let me know when inventory needs to be redone. I mean, I want to be able to keep some things to myself. Like I do all the bank deposits and withdrawals, and probably my two biggest things I do is I buy the gym equipment. I drive to go pick it up now, and I'm on Marketplace quite a bit looking for deals.
Yep.
So I'm usually buying the gym equipment and I'm paying the bills. That's usually my two biggest things.
That kind of leads right into my next question, though. Was like, because I was going to talk about vision. Like when you were doing both jobs, I imagine it like just focusing on the vision was probably a little more challenging because you were so far in the weeds that like worrying about the vision was probably challenging. And you were just talking about like driving around, getting equipment that you need and like going, okay, I can analyze, this is what I've got. This is what I want. Let me do the time to go find what I want rather than I just got to put a piece of equipment in there. Are you finding that now you really can focus on the vision?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I think initially early on when money was still tight, you're looking at like, here's the vision, here's what I want, but will I ever get there? And even before we moved into this current location, it was getting past that mindset of, can I afford it? Because when you go from, a place, so some backstory, our 7,000 square foot location, we only paid $1,000 a month in rent.
Wow.
And we started out at $600. And so it was in like the crappiest place in town. It was on what everyone referred to as Heroin Alley, because that street alone, there was pretty much a lot of overdoses. Everyone was overdosing on heroin. You'd see druggies all over the place, you know. So it was like not the best place, but like in our landlord was like is known as the slumlord of the town. So so I mean, he kept rent low, hoping that I'd never leave. And so you get into this mindset where you're like, okay, I know I'm getting members and money's coming in, but like, can I really afford to like move? And so when I made that jump to move, it like the gym just blew up. And so because the vision started coming alive, it was never going to get to where it needed to be in that smaller location to what I always thought it would be. And so once it moved and everyone saw what we were doing, and then they bought in, it was just like word of mouth, boom, 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 boom. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. But yeah, the vision's still there. I like to say that it's almost like it takes on its own identity and it becomes its own person. Like I've had some visions of what the gym was going to be, but it's like it becomes a toddler and then a child and then an adolescent, and it has its own personality. And you're like, okay, well, I guess I was going to go this path, but I guess I'm going to go this path now, you know, because this is just the way the gym is growing on its own. So it's kind of weird.
David, I got a question I'm curious about is what was the point when you were in the 7,000 square foot space? That was the business outgrowing it, where you like, we have to move? Because that's obviously a really good deal on rent, and I'm sure it's obviously much more now. What was that like?
I mean, it was. So I mean, I don't mind sharing. I tell younger guys that I mentor and that are coming up in the gym game, you know. So when we moved locations back in 2023 here, you know, rent was $1,000. We were month to month. When I found this location, it's 27,000 square feet. The whole building's 56,000 square feet.
Wow.
And I negotiated going from 1,000 to 8,500. I now pay 12,000, but it's going to top out at 13 next month. Now, still 13,000 for 27,000 square feet's still pretty cheap.
You broke up on me for that last sentence. What did you say for the last sentence?
So I coming in June of this year, I'll be paying $13,000 a month in rent for 27,000 square feet. Now, the idea, and we've had conversations together, is that, you know, I'll eventually just buy the building, the whole 56,000 square feet. I know what he paid for the building in 2019. And I have a feeling I kind of know what he wants and number wise. But yeah, so we moved with 236 members. I was like, we've got 3 months to make this happen. If it doesn't, at least I can say that we jumped. And it was a good story. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business, you know. But we cracked out a grand slam that first month, signed over 100 members, and it's just been going like that. I mean, we've been averaging 63 members a month since July of 2023.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we're just. I mean, it's just word of mouth marketing, man. It's just, I've tried everything over the years, you know, for marketing, but word of mouth and Google has been my favorite. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for you guys, Anthony, like, when did you guys know, like, okay, we went full time? Like, it's a little bit off topic, but like, when did you know, like, okay, we're in a good spot to go for a second gym?
I live in the area, so I know that the area needed it because it's 5 minutes away from my house, and it's all corporate gyms, Planet Fitnesses, or just normal health clubs that are, you know, in every city. So I know the area desperately needed it, and I did it selfishly for myself too, of like, this is what I would want if I lived here, so let's do it. And then it really took about 2 years from conception to find the right location, you know, negotiating a deal, trying to figure out how to do it, because we honestly didn't have the like liquidity to do that. And we obviously found it along the way, but yeah, it really was selfishly building it for what I thought the area needed, just knowing the area. And thankfully it's worked out for sure. So still building 100%. Like it's not where we want it to be, but it's like I said, growing every month. What we're trying to envision it at.
Well, that's the thing with, and I mentioned this, and Dave and I have talked about this a few different times. That's one of the challenges with being a locally owned gym owner. Is you just have different expectations placed upon you. Like if you're a Planet Fitness or you're an LA Fitness, and you open the doors and this is the way your gym looks the day you open, and 10 years later it looks exactly the same except a little worse because you haven't changed anything. Nobody cares, and nobody's going to say anything. But if one of you guys opens your doors and 6 months later nothing has changed, your members are like, Anthony and Dave, like they don't really care about us anymore. Like they don't do anything to the gym. Like it only takes a few months, and all of a sudden they're like, man, they don't care about us. It's not fair, but it's the reality of the situation. And I can imagine like kind of pulling it back into the topic. Like I imagine when you guys were working full time, that was probably a struggle, right? Like trying to keep the gym updated all the time and understanding. Like, let's get into that a little bit. Like, how hard was it and how much easier is it now? Like, because we often talk about like community and culture. How challenging was it for you guys to like set your community and set your culture and be a huge part of that when you were working full time? Dave, you want to take that one first?
Yeah. So I think my personality comes through quite a bit. Just very outgoing. People that when I took the gym over from the old gym, had already known me because I'd been a member of that gym for 7 years. I was actually that gym's third member. I knew the previous owner. I went to high school with him. He was a couple years older than me. We worked out at the YMCA together in the early 2000s when he was like, there needs to be a bodybuilding gym here. It's just, there's got to be something better than a YMCA to work out at, because that's where everyone worked out at, because that's all we had. So in 2007, when he opened up the original gym, I joined as supporting him and stayed in. But I always joked because he was so ADHD, and he was just like a squirrel. Like he could never focus on one thing. He was just all over the damn place. And I always joked, said, "Hey, I can run this place better than you could." And so by the time 2014 came, and he was like, "Hey, put your money where your mouth's at. We're going to have to go out of business. You've seen the writing on the wall. Memberships are leaving. I can't afford rent. I can't afford this, blah, blah, blah." I bought it and took it over, and it's just blossomed since then.
Yeah. Was it challenging for you guys, Anthony, like trying to, because you have such a cool culture, and your cultures are so different in both gyms. Like if you go to the downtown gym, it's a different vibe and a different culture than the suburban gym. Like when you were working the juice bars and you were everywhere all over the place, like, and you wanted to create that specific culture in the downtown gym, was it challenging, like trying to get that done?
Yeah, it was. It's complete opposite of like what David says, like it's the baby grows into a toddler and stuff. It's funny, like if you make a business plan, I always say is like, and you look back at it in 5 years, it's complete opposite of what you thought it was going to be in terms of like your mission statement and stuff like that. Especially when creating downtown, we created it of what we thought the members would want, right? We like a gym for everybody and kind of an appeal to just mainstream corporate people. And then we finally realize we're a gym for everybody that wants to be there. So we're kind of like a gym for like the misfits, of the people that just don't want to want their own space. They don't want to be around, 8 kids texting. I always say like on a bench press of just like, they want to just be their space to be free. And it's so cool because you can have, and I always say like, a super fit athlete and an old person that's, just on the treadmill doing their thing, and a bodybuilder and a CrossFitter and an Olympic lifter. And they're all just gelling, vibing. And it really came down to like, we're not going to market to push, our brand out there. It's really going to just do our thing, and it'll pull people in that want to be there. And then like Dave said, it's word of mouth is the best thing. Like your product and your service is the best thing to market itself. And then they'll tell friends, and but
as far as
the community, I mean, and the culture really comes from the ownership. I mean, your personality is what drives it. if I was a complete asshole, for instance, people are gonna feel that, and I've met gym owners that are like that, and everything that they do, they're just a complete asshole, and I'm like, why are people working out here? Like, I'm very friendly and outgoing, and I probably, to a fault, that I give people too much, leniency at times. But then you hit a certain mark, and then it's like, okay, now you've pissed me off, and then they're like, oh crap, Dave's pissed. But yeah, so building the culture and community really kind of starts with the ownership and the personality that you want to put out there, and then just setting those rules, and then everyone sees that, and then hopefully follows in with what your vision is for the place. But another topic, like you were saying, going back to gyms like ours, like, you have to do something every month, because we don't have the millions of dollars that corporate does. So keeping things interesting, whether it's a barbell or a piece of equipment, I mean, it could just be, hey, this month I spent $500 on cable attachments, but you've got to do something, you got to keep them interested all the time, or else, it's like the YMCA. They still, our local YMCA still has the same damn Magnum, equipment, plate loaded and pin select equipment that was there in the early 2000s, that I'm like, are they still got the same equipment? I'm like, come on, guys,
Yeah, you probably have changed quite a few pieces of equipment since I was there last summer. And every time I go into Anthony's gym, I'm like, oh, they got new stuff. And I see it. We were just chatting on Instagram, and I was like, you had like equipment on the basketball court because you ran out of room. So
I'll say my conditioning workouts for the past year or two has just been organizing a gym and rearrange equipment left and right. So about 18 configurations a year. So
some days that's your workout. You're like, what did you do today? I moved the gym around.
So so you obviously, like, to kind of go a little bit further with that, obviously, and I know this, I've talked to enough gym owners and I've been to enough gyms to know that, like, the gym owner is such an important part of the gym culture and what happens with the gym and how it grows and how it creates and who comes into the gym, who stays in the gym. But how challenging was it to be that person when you're also, like, working full time? Or when you're also doing, like, you're working another business and you're also trying to, like, because if I go into a gym and I'm like, hey, what do you guys think of Anthony? Who's Anthony? Like, it's probably a shitty gym because nobody knows who Anthony is.
Yeah, and then I think initially a lot of people still had the mindset that Joe was still the owner, even though it was under a new name and we were going in a different direction of what the gym was going to become. And so when Joe would come in, people would go to him about, hey, I need to make my payment, or I need to do XYZ. And it caused a lot of conflict initially, probably the first year between him and I, because he didn't do things like I do. And he would be in the gym when I would be at the hospital. And then, I didn't know something was going on. They're like, well, I told Joe about XYZ. And I'm like, okay, but I'm the owner. So and they're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. Like, and so it does, until I got my first employee after 6 months, that's when I was able to start, like, okay, let's get this on board. Okay, who are you? Are you a member? Are you paying? Why are you here? So it was, and then we had a locking system on the door. You had to have a key fob. So, I mean, everything was kind of tightened up then, but it was very challenging for the first, 6 months. So
first, I'm at my mom's house because I got her in the background. Come here, Mom. Sorry. My mom's house is right by the gym, so I stopped by.
Nice. Hi.
This is Mama Grind here.
Hi.
So
Nice, Mama Grind. Nice to meet you.
Nice.
I just crawled underneath on the floor because I didn't want him to see me. Nice to see you guys.
We're a totally laid back, family friendly podcast.
I like it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. That's good.
See, the key is having the gym next to my mom's house, so I come over for the free dinner and go back to the gym. Easy access.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice. So,
So,
I didn't have any other questions. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to, like, talk about on this topic, or anything in this realm of, like, going from, like, working full time to just being full-time in the gym. Do you think we covered it all? Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think it's good. I mean, I think we covered a lot, and I think it's cool. I think anybody that wants to, start a gym is do your due diligence, and obviously go with your gut with a lot of things. But I'm a big believer in if you see it when the opportunity arises, take the risk and go for it. Especially if you're young, when you got no have no responsibility to do that. It's a different story when you have responsibility. And yeah, I know if I'm ever in Dayton, I'll be checking you out, David.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've never been to Baltimore, so I'll have to come over that way.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, their downtown gym is super cool. Like,
yeah, definitely cool vibe for sure.
Yeah, as I mentioned to you, like the photos of me on our website are actually in the downtown gym. So
nice.
Cool. Cheers. All right, well, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone else for listening. Hopefully this content was helpful and hopefully you enjoyed it. And stay around and we'll have some more content soon. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Thanks guys. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.